welcome to the channel and happy spooky Saturday. This Saturday is actually the last of the spooky Saturdays for this month before Halloween, and today I am building a very spooky wedding venue. So I suppose this video can also cross over into my wedding venue series because it was suggested and requested that I do kind of like a Gothic or vampire wedding venue. So I thought it'd be really cool to incorporate into my October spooky Saturday series as well, since it's, you know, it's that time of year. And before that, I really had avoided this build for a really long time because I knew it was going to be very complicated to figure out how to build this. And it took me maybe about like 2 kind of attempts at the main structure of it, and just trying to figure out the layout of the exterior so I could figure out the roof. And yeah, so this is the third time, and the third time it didn't really take me all that long to do initially, and I'm really excited with how it came out. It's one of my favorite structures that I've built, and I think if you just change some of the colors, like if you made the outside a light color, this could easily be, a really nice church for weddings. And if you don't have vampire sims and you still want to get married here, that's completely okay. I would just probably change some of the outside so it's a little lighter and brighter. But for vampires and for those sims that enjoy a little bit of spook or Gothic style, I think this is perfect. And I really wanted massive like stained glass windows on the where the altar would be. And as you guys know, we don't really have super tall windows in game. So what I did was I used the big stained glass windows that came with Get Together, and I sized them up, I layered them, and then I used just some regular tall windows and put them on either side of the window, because when you size up a window, it keeps the area where the window would be at the same size, and typically you'd see the wall coming through. So what I basically did was use other windows to layer on top of that, and you can see through the big window on either side. So it kind of works, and I was really happy with how that came out. I was inspired by a few different real-life cathedrals, Gothic cathedrals in Europe, but most of this build just came from my imagination, and I don't know, I just had a lot of fun with it. And apologies for not getting a world build out this weekend. This particular build took up most of my time. So I'm sure you can see why, especially later. So here I'm just building the flying buttresses, and, well, at least, what they would kind of look like. It's the best I could do in game without, having to use CC, but that's the idea. That's the idea of the little wall structures there, because they are very integral to the Gothic style, especially for cathedrals. So Gothic architecture, it's really interesting, and when I was in art history classes in college, I learned a bit about Gothic architecture. It actually started in Europe, and it was during the high and late Middle Ages, like during the most, I guess, pinnacle part of the Gothic or the Middle Ages. That's kind of when Gothic architecture came to be, and it actually evolved from Romanesque and was succeeded by architecture popular during the Renaissance. So it's kind of like an in-between type of architecture. It originated in the 12th century in France and lasted into the 16th century, and Gothic architecture was known as quote French work, but in Latin, but I can't pronounce it in Latin, but it's it's translated into French work. And the term Gothic was first appeared during the later part of the Renaissance. Its main characteristics include the pointed arch, ribbed vaults, which actually evolved from the joint vaulting of Romanesque architecture, and of course the flying buttresses, which are basically these arched support beams on the outside of the cathedral to kind of like support the walls from the outside. And then the ribbed vaults on the inside support the walls on the inside to the outside of where the flying buttresses are. I don't know if that makes sense, but if you looked it up, you would understand completely if you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, so that's basically the main characteristics of this type of style, and it was most popular and familiar in the architecture of many cathedrals and abbeys and different churches in Europe. So the roots of the Gothic style lie in towns. It kind of goes back to the 11th century, and basically it came out of prosperity and growth in towns that turned into cities. And at the end of the 12th century, Europe was divided into a multitude of like smaller city-states and kingdoms. In the area in kind of around modern Germany, southern Denmark, the Netherlands, among others in Europe, were growing kind of rapidly during this time. And the Gothic style itself runs kind of parallel to the Catholic Church, which, you know, once the cities grew, so did the church. So did, you know, these massive structures that were built in cities. The style was basically to invoke a sense of awe in the churchgoer and viewer, to kind of point them to God in its religious motifs. High pointed arches and towers and stained glass windows, which often also had religious imagery on them as well. And that was because I want to say most, if not all, of the average person that would go to the church would be illiterate. So the only way they would understand or kind of see religious stories or ideas, they would be presented on the windows or on murals inside of the church, because to my knowledge, I don't think people were allowed to read their own Bible until later on in history, when Bibles were actually printed. But yeah, so the church itself, they tried to make it as easy as possible for the churchgoer to understand religious stories and ideals and things like that through the imagery in the windows on the church. But for this, my idea for it was to maybe the building itself was abandoned, or I don't know, it's just kind of really old and it's in Forgotten Hollow. For this, I basically bulldozed Vlad's house and I built it there. It's the biggest lot in Forgotten Hollow, really, but I made sure to make the ceilings as tall as I possibly could, because that's definitely one main feature to cathedrals like this, to have super high vaulted ceilings. But yeah, I really love how this turned out, and I thought it'd be really nice to have some sort of like courtyard with a fountain, so it's kind of overgrown and it's really nice. And I put some windows, I think, in the back there just to let in some more light, so it's not like completely closed in, but yeah. And then adding some overgrown, like dried bushes out here. I think this little courtyard would be really nice for some type of wedding picture or something, so that's why I put it there. And then this is the ceremony area. I'm just going around and painting using the bowling pack stone, because I feel like the bowling pack stone looks older than the one that came with vampires, in my opinion. So that's what I used, and I noticed that for some reason, because I really wanted it to look down into the ceremony area when you're up here, but when I deleted the wall, it pretty much deleted the friezes on the outside, And I was like, no, I am not dealing with freezes today. So, so I just left that wall there, and I just put some windows just so you can still see out into the ceremony area, but it doesn't mess with the freezes at all, you know. And then here I'm just putting around a bunch of candles, the sconces that came with vampires, because I think it was the most appropriate for this build. And they're pretty much everywhere in the build because I didn't want a lot of overhead lighting, because it is a cathedral, so I wouldn't think there would be any kind of, you know, modern lighting like that. So especially not for you know, a vampire wedding or vampire build. So, and then I knew for a fact that I wanted to use this runner rug that came with vampires. I just sized it up and it became a really nice rug that led up to the wedding arch in the altar area. And I think what's my most favorite part of this build is this altar area with all the candles. I tried to do a lot of candles just kind of to set the mood and to you know, make it really, you know, light in this area, but not like too overbearing. I wish the wedding arch wasn't white, but I did like the red and white flowers, so I tried to incorporate the red and white roses all around the build, not just in the altar area, but I also used them in the reception area, which you'll see in a bit. I wasn't sure what to use for the pews, but I remembered these benches or these chairs that came with Get Together, and I thought they were really perfect for this type of build. They looked very Gothic and, you know, church-like in a way. So I added those down the runner rug, and I thought it looked really nice, especially in the black. I thought the front needed a little something, so I lined the lot in the stone, and I added a fountain out here in the front, and then I added a gargoyle kind of guarding the entryway. I thought that looked kind of neat, and just added some like algae and stuff so it looked a little bit older. Here I'm just adding some more gargoyles to the top of the roof area there, because it's very common to see gargoyles kind of on the roofs of these Gothic cathedrals, because I believe they were meant to ward off evil spirits from the church, I believe. I think that's why they were there. So this is the reception area, and I imagine that a vampire wedding would be pretty formal, so I don't have a dance floor or a DJ or anything like that, but I do have an organ and a bar, and this slot is technically it's technically considered a lounge, I think. So there's a bar, there's an organ, and there's a microphone, I think. But I mean, you could easily redecorate however you want if you want to do a wedding here, of course. And another note is this particular build is going to be my third and final gift for simblreen. So this won't be available on the gallery till after simblreen is finished, which will be on the 30th, I think. And if you don't know what simblreen is, it's pretty much just a thing on Tumblr that simmers do, where they have like a secret post. You basically send the simmer and ask with trick or treat, and they give you a secret link to a post that you can download and whatnot. So this is going to be my third gift, and then I'll upload it to the gallery after simblreen is done, so it'll be public for everybody to download if you want it. But until then, if you want it early, just go my Tumblr tomorrow on the 30th, and I'll gladly send you a link to this build. Yeah, here is the organ area. I wasn't really sure what to do there, but when I saw the organ, I was like, yes, that would be perfect there, because it's kind of in the center, and you would hear it from, you know, every part of the room. But I hope you enjoyed this build. I'm pretty much done. I'm just going to be adding some lighting to the outside because it was pretty dark. And yeah, thank you so much for watching, and see you guys later. Bye!